Hello, welcome back. As you can see, we've started the hull of the German siege mortar and we've gone quite a long way. In fact, it is ready for painting. It's a big piece of kit this. I'm gonna struggle painting it. It's now winter and it's damn cold outside. I've painted the rest of the large parts of this kit on the deck outside where I had more room. I'm going to have to sort out some way of getting this into my spray booth. I think it will fit, but we'll take it as we go along. As you can see, it's quite complex on the top. There's on the top of the hull. There's quite a lot going on in there. I'll just move this out of the way and take the hull off itself. What we've done is we've gone from section 9, assembling most of the hull there, and all the way up to section 13, which is the last of the hull. From there it moves on to the gun itself, assembling the gun. A lot of work involved in this. I'll move it to one side for a second or two. A lot of work involved in this. It's really quite complex, some of it. All these bits that I've put on here on section 9 really quite simple. It's simple and straightforward. It's the lugs that would hold the gun onto the railway carriages, onto the railway frames, and then basically all the bits and bats, the strengtheners and the scaffolding which would hold the gun itself. The gun fixes to the top of this scaffolding, the side pieces that reinforce that. Simple stuff basically. I've glued it all together, but I've left the pins out and they will go in later. I'll paint those a steel colour and put them in later. Section 10, it's assembling the mufflers, and again just sticking stuff on basically. Most of it's fairly easy. The mufflers themselves are silencers, whichever you want to call them. Quite a big piece of stuff. It's an old Daimler, I think, engine in it, a 540 engine, which was very big for its time, 540 horsepower, and consequently you've got two large mufflers, one for each side. They'll be painted. I'll paint those black and then rust them up. They would get very hot while it was moving, so any paint on them would flake and would rust, so they would be very rusty. They fit inside there, which is causing a little bit of a problem. So it goes in there. That's the correct way up. And as you move along, you come to realise that you're putting more and more bits on, and then you come to put the walkways, the extendable walkways on. The walkways are then supported by many supports at an angle underneath, and as these are fold down walkways, you can have them either two ways round, either up or down. It causes a slight problem in that I put them on here, but then where the silencers go, there's a bar runs upright there. There's three of them run upright, and then there's an angled bar, a support bar, that runs onto those uprights. If I put those in now, I'll never get the exhaust pipes in. So you've got to work it out yourself whether you want to do it, try and spray it when the exhaust pipes are in there, then paint it, then weather it up. I don't think that would work. I think that would look rubbish. But hey ho, each to their own. That's the way I'm going to do it. So I'm going to paint all this and then glue a lot of the stuff back on when I'm finished. As you can see, I've put mascol on all the little holes along here. The reason I've done that is same underneath there, there's lots of little bits, and because this thing can either be folded down, up or down, there are little tiny pieces of PE that go on here. I'm not going to put them on until the kit's completely finished, basically, until this upper hole's completely finished, because they're simply going to get knocked off. There's some very fragile stuff on it as it is, and I'll just show you if I can find them. There are two tiny little pieces, M4 and M5. Can you see that? M4 and M5, two tiny little pieces that go on the back of this frame here. I think they're lights, although it's difficult to work out exactly what they are. There's a tube, a casing, a cable tube goes up to them, and they fit on the end there. So I put them on, and within seconds, basically, one of them snapped in half and the other one fell off. So not the strongest of things. Again, I'll leave them until the last, right until the end, and then put them on. The reason I've left the photo edge off here and then masked it out where it's going to where I'm going to glue it on is the super glue tends to stick better to the plastic than it does to the paint. So if I paint that, then stick the photo etch on, it's liable to come off because there's such a small contact area there. So that's why I've masked those out. The rest of it fairly easy. You can see that I've put 4 legs on here, 2 at each end, and they're just bits of sprue that I've cut to size, and that will stand on itself like that. The reason I've done that is because the ladders at each end come lower than the actual hull, which means that by the time you've messed around putting stuff on, moving it around to paint it, at some point you're going to snap those ladders off, and they are again very fragile. There's a point with the ladders, and it's this bit here. You've got 3 pieces of PE that join together and then hinge, that join the 2 ladders together so that the ladders would hinge and move up and down. The 3 pieces of PE, although they're very tiny, once you put them in there, I did put one in, and it looked huge. It didn't look right as a hinge on that ladder. It looked as though it had just been stuck there for no reason whatsoever because it was too big. If they'd have made the PE any smaller, you wouldn't have been able to work with it. It was extremely difficult to work with it in the first place. And also, maybe I was just unlucky, it says that there's a 0.5mm wire to go through them. I didn't get any 0.5mm wire. As it is, I have some myself, so I could have done it, but it didn't look right. So I sacked the whole thing, and I didn't do that at all. And what I did, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this on here. I don't think you can, to be honest. But what I've done is I've joined the 2 ladders together, glued them together, and I've just put a piece of wire across. In fact, it's 0.5mm wire. Put a piece of wire across. So there are some photographs that come with this video where you'll be able to see it more clearly, and they've strengthened it so it holds it all together, and that looks far more realistic than the bits of PE, to be fair. Most of the PE with these kits I think is absolutely fantastic. It's exactly right, but those bits there to hold that ladder together just didn't look right at all. The rails, as I say, there are 2 ways to put the rails on, the extendable footways on. I've chosen to put them down flat, which is in the firing mode, and it would make that walkway wider so that people could walk along it and do what they've got to do. There's a handrail goes up all the way along, and I'm going to glue that on after and assemble it after the kit's been, the top hull here has been painted. For obvious reasons, it'll leave shadows all over the place, and moving it around and around to put the handrail on, you're going to break something off. So that'll go on and be painted later. If they puts it in travelling mode, this walkway, all these 4 walkways, fold upwards, and that hides most of the detail that you spent hours creating on the top of it. So I've decided to have it as though it's in firing mode, and if you were that keen on reality, it would be as though it's just been lifted up by the train, by the railway wagons, and it's in the process of being locked into place and kitted up to be transported. So I don't think it's made any difference to it at all. A couple of little bits at the front here. As you can see, I've done the cab, and inside the driver's cab there, I've painted it green to give it some relief from the dark grey or that'll be everywhere else. I've weathered the seat. I don't know if you can see all this. Yeah, you can. I've weathered the seat, and I've painted a dashboard on it. There's no transfer for the dashboard, so what I've done is a tiny little brush, I've painted the black dials, and then with, that's my email, sorry about that, and then with a cocktail stick I've just added some texture, some detail to the dials. Painted a couple of red switches and a couple of blue switches. There's a lot of photographs, as I say, so you'll be able to see those. There are 2 levers. These would be steering levers here, and they glue into the floor. Then what you do is you sit this cap over the top of the cab, and that would be in its travelling mode. However, there's always a however, isn't there? Sorry. If you leave those 2 levers as they came in the kit, fastened down to the floor, they stick up too far to put the cap on, and the cap doesn't fit. So you can see, I only did it this morning. You can see I've actually trimmed, cut a little bit off the top of the levers. Simple enough stuff, you know, it's no hassle. But it's a bit of a strange one, that, why they would do that. I've done a little bit more painting. Obviously I've painted that on the inside, and I'll mask it out so that no paint goes in there and that stays as it is. When the kit's finished, I'll lean the thing up somewhere. I don't know, just drop it on the side, I don't know. We'll sort it out. This piece here slides on, and there's underneath, you can see, so this piece here fits on, and then the grill itself fits on top of that piece. Okay, so you assemble it. There's the whole assembly. You glue this piece on, then you glue K23 on, then you glue the piece of PE on the top. I dry assembled it, and you can see clearly that this is a honey coloured plastic. So what I did was, before I put this on, assembled it and put it on, painted all around the top here the black, and I painted inside here black, and the underside of the PE black, then glued it all on, and then when it's finished you can't see any of the plastic underneath. It just looks black as it's falling down into the bowels of the hull. That would be an air intake to, in fact that might be an air outlet. and the intakes are here. So that hull would need ventilating. So that's what those 4 elements are. The intakes, and to blow the heat out of it. It would get very, very warm in there. As against the exhaust pipes, which will blow the exhaust fumes out, but that will ventilate it. The other thing, in the kit, you get a piece of plastic that sits. You get 2 pieces of plastic actually. 2 pieces of plastic that sit on the top there. See that? Yeah, easy enough. They're supposed to be pieces of wood that would drop in there so that the operators can walk on the top of those cowlings, those inlets. So when I'll just mention this, before I glued the tops on those inlets, as you can see, I painted it black underneath again so that there's no shadow showing, there's no honey-coloured plastic showing underneath it. But these, to me, although they've made an attempt at putting some wood grain in it, I don't know if you can see that, it's difficult, it doesn't look at all like wood, and they've made it into 2 planks, which if you look at the archive photographs of it from the tank museum, the German tank museum, it is 2 planks of wood. So what I've done, because I did, is I've made the same thing but actually out of a piece of wood, and when that's stained it will look much more realistic than the piece that's there, and that will fit nicely into there, and stained as to be coloured as a piece of wood, and then stained up with oil stains and grease as it would be. Those 2 there would sit on there nicely, and obviously don't yet because I've not fixed them in place. So that's how they would go. Yeah, you might be able to see that. Yeah, you can see that definitely 2 planks. You can see a little bit of the grain in them from there as well. And that is about where I'm up to. There's not much more to tell. There are some tools that go on the back. I'm not going to take them out of their little bottle. There are some tools that go on the back of the ladders here that go in between, and again, if you spray them the same colour as the hull, they're just going to disappear. So that I'll paint those separately. You can see the pins for the locating lugs in the bottom of that little bottle. Superb, these little bottles. And that is about where I'm up to. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to paint all this up, then I'm going to assemble it all, and then we'll make another video of it, put another video up. Thanks very much for watching. Put this over here. Thanks very much for watching. If you have any comments or questions, please don't hesitate, leave them in the area below. And it would be great if you could like and subscribe. Thanks very much for watching. Bye bye. Ta-da.